Hi, folks. This is Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D., for the Institute for Dialectical Metarealism, aka Moshe Aharon Halevi Ben Herschel. I guess you weren't expecting that, were you? That's why I did it. Let's get rolling. I wanted to revert to one of my favorite activities when I was still working full-time as a professor before my nice and pleasant retirement a couple of years ago, and that is to debunk conspiracy theories. For some reason, I always enjoyed that. I would especially turn a lot to the conspiracy theories of Alex Jones because to me they were the greatest amount of fun. Of course, for dear old Alex, they weren't that much fun eventually when he got dragged into court and lost a lot of money in the process. But conspiracy theorizing, while not unique to the far right, is certainly dominated by people on the far right. Now, I'm not saying that there are no left wing or leftish, perhaps, conspiracy theories, but compared to those on the right, they really are not that significant. Since the assassination attempt on President Donald J. Trump, there have been two big conspiracy theories that I have noticed, maybe more than that, but two that I have noticed that have surrounded the assassination attempt. And I will attempt to debunk them right now. Okay, first one. Trump intentionally had a gunman, maybe hired a gunman, a shooter, to shoot him in the head or pretty close so that he would go up in the polls and have a better chance of beating Joe Biden. Well, problem. Yes, it is true. Trump got grazed. His ear was hit by the bullet. He was not killed. God bless him. I wish him well. But how did he know that? There is no way that you can know that a shooter will be that good. You cannot guarantee, no matter how good a shooter is, that the shooter will be a really, really good marksman and will hit you exactly where you say, no, don't hit me in the head or in my nose, hit me in the ear. That literally makes no sense. So would Donald Trump literally bargain with his life in order to make sure that he wins his second time as president, when perhaps there is an even greater risk that he might die in the process? And furthermore, why in the world would he do that when he is already leading in the polls? So I think that conspiracy theory is the easiest one to debunk. The second one is easy to debunk, but maybe a little bit more challenging. You'll see what I mean. The second conspiracy theory: the assassination attempt on Donald Trump was orchestrated by the Biden administration. And in that process, they got the Secret Service somehow to neglect, to ignore the shooter, because they had the Secret Service primarily working for them. Again, serious problem. Here it is. Why would anyone assume that the reason why, allegedly, and I don't know this for a fact, the Secret Service and police officers who were at the scene ignored intentionally the cries of bystanders that there was a man climbing up onto the roof. And it took them, I don't know, 2 minutes until they noticed it. And by then, the guy had already shot. And of course, we know he killed one person. I am sorry for that person and that person's family. He injured others and, of course, injured Donald Trump as well, although his injury was, of course, not that serious. And he was able to go right home, back to his home in New Jersey. Um, again, makes no sense. Let me tell you a story, which I used to lecture on to my students. There was a guy named Lawrence Peter. He was not a sociologist, but he should have been. He was a very good writer, and he had a very good sociological impulse in him. What he said in the Peter Principle, which was his major work, he wrote a series of sequels. But just so you know, the sequels are basically repetitions of what he said in the first book with new illustrations. That's what people ordinarily do when they write bestsellers. They say, let me write more books, except they don't really have any new ideas. So they simply find original ways of saying the same thing over and over again. So the Peter Principle is really all you need. According to Lawrence Peter, people are promoted to their positions of maximum incompetence. What does that mean? Here's the illustration I used to give to my students. You have a person, let's say a guy. He's been working on an assembly line for a long time. And he's really good. Whenever the foreman is busy, this guy will step in and will do the foreman's work, or at least part of the foreman's work. And he is very, very good at it. The other workers really, really like him. Word about him gets up to middle-level management, and they are very impressed by what they hear. The foreman, the actual foreman, is promoted to some other position or leaves, takes a new job, whatever, doesn't matter. Middle-level management thinks, well, it would be better, I think, if we hire from within. And so they approach this guy, this person who was the, I guess you could say, the substitute foreman. And they say to him, how would you like to be foreman? And he says gleefully, I would love it. This guy is a people person. There are people who are not necessarily people persons. I am one of them. I mean, I don't dislike people, but as an autistic throughout my life, I have had some difficulty with people, although certainly not as much as I did when I was a lot younger. But the problem is still there. But this guy has no problem with that. This guy loves people, and people love him. And so he gets the job of the foreman. And he is an even better foreman than the one he replaced. The people on the staff love him. Middle-level management is very, very happy and satisfied with the work he is doing. A couple of years go down the line. A job opens up in middle management. They think again to themselves, well, we would like to hire somebody from within who is doing a really good job. And they think of that new foreman. Well, maybe not so new anymore. And they go to him and they say, look, would you like that job? He pauses because he realizes that if he takes that job, he would no longer be spending that much time with other people. Instead, he would be locked away in an office, He would have an administrative assistant on the outside who would come in and do work for him, but basically he would be on his own doing paperwork, taking phone calls, and all the ordinary things that middle-level managers do. So he says, well, let me go home and discuss this with my wife first. I don't want to make any rash decision. And they say, sure, you can have a week. So he goes home and he mentions the issue to his wife, and his wife says, well, we could really use the money. We really could use the money. We're running short right now. We're trying to pay back our sons and daughters' student loans, and that's kind of leaving us short. This would mean that your salary would almost be doubled. That would be a really good thing for us. And the guy comes back and says, I know, but will I be good at it? I don't know. Will I like it? I don't know. So they hash it out for a while. At the end of the conversation, they decide that he should take the new job as a middle manager. So he goes back and tells the other middle managers, yes, my wife and I have decided that I will take the job. They are very, very pleased. Well, so far they're pleased. He starts the new job. He is lonely as hell. He is all by himself. He does an adequate job. He did not do the same kind of splendorous job that he did when he was a foreman, but he's not bad enough to be fired. So he stays on the job for the rest of his career. In other words, he is not good enough to be promoted to another position, but he is not bad enough to be fired. And so that is the story of the rest of his career until he retires. He is a very unhappy man, and he is not really doing a spectacular job either. That is the Peter principle. People are promoted to their positions of maximum incompetence. That's what happened to him. So you take that and you look at Secret Service. People sometimes will put these people on a pedestal, think that somehow they are magical, wondrous human beings, when they're not. They are just like you and I. No different. They are simply ordinary people who are doing a job serving the president and serving other people that they are called upon to protect. And so you might wonder, well, if you have people in the crowd yelling out to them, there is a guy crawling up onto the roof, and we think that that person may have a gun. Well, their job is to look out for themselves, to do their own investigations, to use their own equipment, not to listen to people in the crowd. They're not trained to take instructions from an audience. And so initially, they ignore what is being said. And it is only after this lone gunman fires a shot, which of course killed a couple of people, wounded President Trump, that they notice him, and then a gunman shoots him down, or as they say, neutralizes him, meaning the gunman is now dead. I always wish that there were a way to do this without killing these horrendous people, because that way you could interrogate them. But I realize that's not always possible. So I'm speaking out of turn. I really don't have the qualifications to say that. And I'm certainly not criticizing them. I realize they have a hard job, but simply for the sake of information. It would, I think, be better, ideally, if they could capture the person alive. I'm sure they know that. But when you have a person on a roof, what are you going to do? I mean, you don't know whether the person will fire more shots. So the most sensible thing is that you simply take the person out. So hopefully, I have just debunked these two major conspiracies which are gradually making their way through the web. Sadly, these things almost always happen following a crisis, like an attempted assassination, but really any kind of crisis. Of course, we know what Alex Jones is in trouble for spreading lies, conspiracy theories about an actual school shooting. And there have been conspiracy theories galore going on for a long time, for decades, centuries, perhaps millennia. And when there is a lack of information, people will commonly grasp for the conspiracy theory because it's the easiest explanation. And most people, and I include myself in that, don't like to be living with a gap in knowledge. I like to have the answers now. I mean, I would like to know why a guy who was a registered Republican, albeit contributed to the Biden campaign $15, not very much, but still, even after that, he was a registered Republican. Why a person like that would attempt to kill former President Donald J. Trump. I really want to know that, but I am also very cautious about not buying into conspiracy theories, because conspiracy theories are almost always wrong, and we should never trust them. We should trust our own two eyes and the eyes of people who are paid to do an investigation, and certainly not to have conspiracy theories about them. Well, unless there's a justifiable reason for it, but generally to trust people with the knowledge, to trust people who are doing the investigation. They have access to information that I and you do not have. And so I hope that clears those things up. Maybe, maybe not. But for the time being, this has been Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D., a.k.a. Moshe Aharon Halevi Ben Herschel. I promise I won't do that many times again. Have a pleasant day and an even better day tomorrow.